Hello, boys and girls, and welcome to the first Box$Cast. I am Justin, aka Fake Ghost Pirate,
And I'm Mikko, aka Smuffler.
and this is a new project for Box. It's basically a podcast where we'll be discussing everything Formula One, from the races to the future of the sport, and the F1 games from Codemasters as well. So,
Yeah, and on this week's episode, we'll be talking about the Japanese Grand Prix and the 2014 drivers or the driver lineup.
absolutely. And what a race it was. Right at the beginning of the race, Romain Grosjean was able to jump into the lead with a fantastic move over to the right. What did you think about that?
Yeah, well, he's not particularly famous for his good starts, but this time he's just seemed to launch out of nowhere.
Certainly not in Japan. He's not known for good starts.
Yeah.
But yeah, he got a great launch. Mark Webber got about the same start as Vettel when I was watching the replays of it. Hamilton and Grosjean were both kind of all over them. Of course, Hamilton tried to go in between the two of them, though, and that didn't work out so well. So I think Grosjean actually got a little bit lucky being on the right side of the grid. Helped him get a little bit more clear air. But yeah, I mean, he stormed them at the start, and he was absolutely gone. And I really thought that I mean, right off the bat, I thought that he was going to be getting his maiden victory.
Yeah, I think pretty much everybody like hope for that for to a certain extent. So I mean, of course, this was Vettel's fifth victory in a row, so I don't think anyone particularly like expected anyone else to win. But certainly after the start, it seemed like he could have a real chance.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and it definitely would have been nice for the sport, certainly, to see somebody get their first win. I mean, this year has been dominated by people who have already won races. Nobody that's won a race this year won it for the first time. So, I mean, Kimi won, of course, in Australia. Vettel's won plenty. Hamilton has won. Rosberg has won, and that's it, I think, right?
Yeah, I mean, of course, Rosberg hasn't won. He won his first in 2012 in China, but maybe he's the least experienced if it comes to race wins.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I thought it was really good that he got the two wins this year. He really needed to prove, and he did it nice and early. He needed to prove that he's not, a one-trick pony. He's capable of winning races at a variety of locations, and he's definitely just about on par with Lewis Hamilton, and I think he proved that very well this year.
Yeah, of course, winning in Monaco is it's special, I think, for the drivers.
Definitely. And I think, I mean, certainly his win in Silverstone was mainly just because of the problems with Vettel's car, which, by the way, I was really hoping for a Vettel Kurz issue during the Japanese Grand Prix. I don't know about you, but I was sitting there with my fingers crossed, hoping something would go wrong with the batteries or something, but unfortunately that didn't happen. So one of Rosberg's two victories is really only because of an issue with Vettel's car, but Monaco, he absolutely proved that not only can he do the job on a Saturday, but he can definitely do the job on a Sunday as well.
Yeah, and people often they don't remember that he's been in the sport for I think 5 years now. So he has plenty of experience already, and of course
I
he raced alongside Schumacher. So
Yeah, I know he was with Williams. Are those the only two teams that he's been with? Is Williams and Mercedes?
yeah, I think so.
I'm gonna check it out now. I'm too curious not to. Yes, it is just yeah. He was with Williams from 2006 to 2009, Mercedes from 2010 to present. So yeah, I mean he's been in F1 now for 7 years. This is his, in fact, eighth season in Formula One.
Yeah,
Was he?
so he has
Wow.
plenty of experience. He's been in the sport longer than Hamilton, so
Yeah, yeah, he sure has. But so yeah, definitely, and he did pretty good uh, in Japan. I don't want to talk too much about Rosberg, but he did definitely he did a lot of passing, fighting from the back and whatnot. He got that drive-through penalty, of course, for the unsafe release in the pit lane, and still managed to get into the points on a technically a four-stop strategy. So really quite a good drive from Rosberg.
yeah, and of course a shame for Hamilton to DNF just after the first corner, or well, he came
Yeah,
to the pits, but his
yeah,
race
he had
was
the
finished after that.
I think he had a damaged floor, probably from scraping on the ground with the heavy fuel and the flat tire.
Yeah,
So yeah, that was
and I
really
think
unfortunate. It was very similar in a lot of ways to what happened to Alonso in 2012 with Kimi. But it's really unfortunate because you really can't penalize anyone. You can't penalize Mark Webber for defending the position. You can't penalize Sebastian Vettel for trying to keep up with them. So, it's just one of those tough situations where Hamilton unfortunately lost out big, and the two Red Bulls ended up finishing first and second.
yeah, those things that just happened. And once you mentioned the curse failure thing, of course people are speculating on the thing that if the if the secret traction control or whatever you want to call it in Vettel's car, if it's linked to the curse system, because of course Red Bull has been their curse system has been failing more than anyone else's during the recent years, I think.
Yeah, certainly 2013. Or actually, yeah, you're right. In 2012, I believe, at the Austin Grand Prix, the Circuit of the Americas, I believe Weber's curse failed there. And then Weber definitely had some curse issues earlier this year as well in 2013. This was the first time we've really seen Vettel with a curse issue.
Yeah, but I don't know if they had the technology back then in 2012. I think they were just fiddling around with the exhaust blowing with the with the Coanda effect.
Right, right. Yeah, definitely. So yeah, that really unfortunate for Hamilton. Good job from Rosberg, though. Great job from Grosjean. I was really pulling for him. I'd really like to see him get his maiden victory. I mean, he's had an astounding number of podiums at this point. I mean, we're starting to get so used to seeing Roman up on the podium, but just not on that top step. So I was really hoping that he could get that win. I think it would have been good for him. Would have been good for Lotus. Certainly would have helped them get more sponsors next year, or to keep the sponsors they already have. It would have been good for the sport, for the fans. Just overall, it would have been really nice to see Romain Grosjean win the Japanese Grand Prix.
Yeah, I don't think it's too far. I mean, he's clearly shown the potential already, so he just needs a good clean weekend and
I mean,
a
even
bit of
even if
luck.
you just even if you just look at the timing sheets for the race, Sebastian Vettel 7 seconds ahead of Weber, and Grosjean 2 seconds behind Weber, and then Alonso 36 seconds behind Romain Grosjean. So just like with recent races, it definitely was like kind of a two-tier race. There was the guys that finished way ahead and then the guys behind. Except this time, rather than it being, the Red Bulls and the Mercedes, it was the Red Bulls and Romain Grosjean.
Yeah. Of course, I think Alonso got held up by, of course, Massa during the first part, and then I think Hulkenberg for a while. So I think Grosjean and the Red Bulls they could drive pretty much all race without any traffic.
Right, yeah. And speaking of Hulkenberg, another great race from him. He was only 4 seconds behind Kimi Räikkönen in the end. Came home in sixth place, just ahead of Esteban Gutierrez, who, for me, was actually the driver of the day. Not necessarily because he was the best driver. I just think it was the most standout drive of the day. Yes, Alonso did amazing. Yes, Roman Grosjean did amazing. But these are drivers that we already know have skills. I think Gutierrez really proved today that he's able that he deserves to be in Formula One. I think that was very much in question prior to this race, but he was going side by side with people. He even had a little bit of wheel bumping with Felipe Massa, and I think he did a great job.
Yeah, it's hard to remember with these new drivers that actually he's younger than both of us.
He's the youngest driver on the grid, right?
Yeah, I think so.
I believe
He's
he
born
is.
in 1991, so
Well, wow, actually, that means he's only 1 year younger than Sergio Perez. That's pretty surprising. But yeah, I think he really did a stellar job. Clearly, the Sauber car has improved. A lot of people, certainly at Sky Sports, they've been talking about how the tire change after Silverstone certainly helped Sauber. The same tire change is what seems to be hurting Force India as well. But also, Sauber brought some big updates to the car in Hungary. I believe specifically to the side pods, which were a radical change for 2013. And the car really seems to be a top 10 car at this point. With both drivers finishing in the points today, and with Hulkenberg's fourth place in Korea, it seems obvious that the car has definitely improved.
yeah, certainly. And actually, he got his first points, which which is quite odd because I thought that he had got some points by now, but
Nope.
actually he hasn't.
Yep, I
So
believe his best finish prior to this was 11th, just
yeah,
outside the points. So yeah, great though for him to get his first points in seventh. I think that reflects very well on him for his first points finish ever, and he got 6 points. That's pretty nice for. I think he actually has a chance of staying at Sauber next year now. Previously, earlier in the season, I don't think it was looking very good for him at all. But if he can manage a good result in India, then he might be able to keep his seat.
yeah, I think of course he's bringing some money in, which is always good for Sauber, and his for performances are getting better as well. So not bad, I think.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I think, like I said, for me, he was the standout driver of the day. He may not have been the best, but I think he really proved himself in Japan. And it's not an easy circuit. And also, it should be mentioned that this was his first time driving the circuit. GP2 and GP3, the lower formulas, they don't race at Suzuka.
Yeah, and speaking of Suzuka and it being a difficult track to drive, we saw a lot of penalties during this race. And what did you think about Ricardo's penalty?
That one that's a tough one. I'm not so sure he deserved a drive-through penalty. Maybe he should have been forced to concede the position. But of course, by the time the stewards had made their decision, I think he was already a good bit up the road. So I think it would have been nicer if the stewards had reacted a little bit more quickly and just told him to give the position back. I think that's a much more fair punishment for what he did. Also, you could kind of blame the team as well. The team maybe should have been a little bit more on top of that in telling him, hey, you got to give that place back, man. You were way off the track, and he was. This was, of course, the pass at 130R, extremely high speed corner, and he was probably a car width or two off the track. He was quite a bit off.
Yeah, but actually I think the Toro Rosso guys, they felt that he actually lost time instead of gaining time. So of course you can they're of course rooting for their own drivers, and yeah, it's the FIA's decision. So what can you do?
Yeah, I do think he could have maybe avoided going off the track if he had just tapped the brakes a little bit, just after the apex of 130R. I think he could have maybe stayed on the track. Of course, that would have given Sutil a little bit of an advantage. He would have been coming out of the corner at higher speed, but he still might have been able to maintain that position if he had just stayed to the right. So. But yeah, like I said, I completely think that the drive-through penalty was a bit harsh. I think there's better ways of going through that or penalizing that. So I don't think that was the best possible option. But clearly he was way off the track. So I wouldn't fight it too much, or I guess I would say I wouldn't fight the ruling. I would fight the punishment. I think the punishment was a bit harsh, but I do agree with them on the ruling.
Yeah, I think so too. And once we're on the topic of Esteban Gutierrez and him keeping his drive, and of course Ricardo is moving to Red Bull, we saw this tweet from David Croft where he said Hulkenberg to Ferrari, Alonso to McLaren, Chilton to Force India, and Magnussen to Marussia. Now, what do you think about that?
I gotta say, I disagree with just about every sentiment in that tweet. I think Hulkenberg to Ferrari would have been great if they hadn't already signed Raikkonen, but I really can't see Alonso. I mean, he's been quoted as saying that Ferrari is the last team that he'll ever drive for, and certainly he didn't have a great time when he was with McLaren in the mid 2000s with Lewis Hamilton. But I can't see Alonso leaving. I think he really is looking forward to the challenge of having Kimi Räikkönen as his teammate. Honestly, I think that would be the best pairing in Formula One maybe ever, or maybe since Senna and Prost.
Yeah.
I mean, Alonso and Raikkonen is definitely going to be one of the strongest lineups of all time. I mean, it's definitely up there. So I can't really see Alonso moving to McLaren, and unfortunately, just about everything else in that tweet is based upon that. So I mean, what would you like to see?
I mean, if you think about it, if Raikkonen and Alonso go to Ferrari, then that's a strong pairing. Then on Mercedes you have Hamilton and Rosberg, which is a strong pairing as we know.
Mm-hmm.
And then if Hulkenberg goes to Lotus and Lotus can produce a good car, then Grosjean and Hulkenberg, they're both exciting drivers. So you have already three very strong pairings. And well, I don't know about Vettel and Ricardo, how Ricardo is gonna do. We'll have to wait and see. But yeah, and speaking of Alonso to McLaren, of course he has Santander as his sponsor,
Mm-hmm.
which is also a sponsor already for McLaren.
True.
But what do you think about Chilton to Force India? I just can't see it.
Yeah, that part I'm not so sure about. I think Chilton deserves another season with Marussia. I don't think that he's proven that he's good. I mean, they've already signed Jules Bianchi for 2014. If Chilton ends up moving up to a better team and Bianchi stays at Marussia, I would be pissed. Because clearly Bianchi is the better driver. I don't know what it is about that guy, but he's just got future superstar written all over him. Chilton, I feel like he needs more experience.
Yeah, and of course, I think Chilton brings some money. I think he's from a wealthy family or something.
Yes, I do believe you're right.
Yeah, and Force India, I don't think they would be too interested. Of course, what do you think about Paul di Resta's future?
Yeah, I mean, Paul di Resta has always been this kind of driver who I'm actually not very passionate about one way or the other. I don't love him. I don't hate him. I don't even. I'd say I like him. I don't dislike him either. I like Paul di Resta. I think he's a mature driver. Certainly, he's had some bad luck and some just bad races recently. But I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I mean, that's definitely a tough one. Some people would ease. I could see some people easily looking past the mistakes and the bad luck that he's had recently. But I could also equally see people looking at these past 5 or 6 races that he's had and saying, what was all this about? What happened here? Because once it's down in the record books, that's it. Certainly you can debate it all you want, but that amount of DNFs in a row just does not look good on paper.
Yeah, and I mean, as a personality, he's for me, I think he's just gray. I mean, you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, he doesn't evoke any feelings in you.
Exactly, exactly. Yeah, he's a very neutral driver. He just like you said, he really just doesn't evoke hatred or love or anything like that. Um, with that being said, I think he has the potential to be a race winner. I don't think he's a potential champion. I really don't. If McLaren had signed him instead of Sergio Perez, I think they'd be kicking themselves. Sergio Perez is definitely more of a dynamic driver than Paul is. He may suffer more at other times, do better more at other times, but I think that's better than Paul di Resta's just kind of neutral feeling that he gives out to everyone. But like I said, I think he has the potential to be a race winner, just not a champion. I mean, I'm hoping he can maybe prove me wrong, though.
Yeah, of course it's kind of tricky to think about him as a race winner because I can't imagine him in a top team because he's not performing very well.
Right,
I don't
yeah, and
think.
I would say that race win is heavily dependent on the car he's in. I don't think he can win a race in a Force India. Let me
Yeah.
clarify that. I don't think he's going to be winning any races in a Force India. But I do think if he was given a chance by a top team for some reason, I think he could potentially be a race winner. I think he's kind of like a slightly less interesting version of David Coulthard. I think he could potentially be good, but I mean, just like we said, with the recent DNFs, I think it's entirely possible that he might get passed up for others. We talk about the empty seat at Lotus, and we talk about Massa, Hulkenberg. No one is mentioning Di Resta, which is unfortunate, but that's what happens when you have this many DNFs in a row.
Yeah, I think he's kind of like the Scottish version of Heikki Kovalainen. I mean, yeah, Heikki, of course, he has one race win, and he was at McLaren for 2 years and was totally outshined by Hamilton, of course.
Yep.
So, yeah, I just can't see it for Paul di Resta. I think he's gonna be out this year.
Yeah, I think it's very possible. And like I said, it's a little bit unfortunate, but that is the way of the sport. If he did get the boot out of F1, like I said, I wouldn't really care, which is a bit unfortunate for him. But that's just kind of the way it is. And let's see. Now I'm curious how long he's been in the sport. To the internet.
Yeah, I'll guess. I think 2010.
That is correct. 2010, and he's been
Yes.
with Force India the whole time as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, 2010 was when he started. So that means this is his 4th season. And has he even gotten a podium? Nope.
I don't think so.
Nope,
No.
he sure hasn't. I mean, Sergio Perez got 3 podiums last year. Nico Hulkenberg was in a position to win the Brazilian Grand Prix last year. There's just Romain Grosjean has been getting podium after podium after podium. There are so many drivers that are about the same age and experience level as Paul di Resta that are just shining so much brighter than he is.
Yeah. And of course we're hearing about Magnussen and Van Dorn, which are both Formula Renault 3.5 drivers, and I think Magnussen is very close to winning the championship. And we're hearing that Force India doesn't want to sign them because they're probably going away to McLaren at some point.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I mean, yeah. Force India doesn't want to be, the Toro Rosso of McLaren. They don't.
Yeah.
They don't want to sign these amazing drivers only to have them snatched up a year later by McLaren, which I can totally understand. But I mean, they need to find someone. Moving off topic slightly, what I would really like to see in 2014 is Felipe Massa and Rob Smedley go to Williams to replace Pastor Maldonado. That's what I want to see. That's like the biggest move that I would just love to see. Massa, of course, brings money, just like Maldonado. However, he also brings the fact that he's almost a champion, lots of race wins, lots of experience, and also he would possibly bring Rob Smedley with him as well. Williams is a team that needs money and a fast driver, and with Massa, you get both.
Yeah, I mean, you can always argue that he's lost some of his speed after his accident in 2009, which I personally believe it is the case. But yeah, I think Rob Smedley is already. It's been sort of confirmed that he is going to Williams.
I knew he was. Oh, I didn't know he was actually basically, I know some of these confirmations are kind of gray, but I didn't know he. I knew he was looking at British teams. So I knew Williams was certainly a good possibility for Rob. But yeah, I think. Massa would do great at Williams. He wouldn't be winning races, which might kind of bum him out. But with the new regulations next year and his experience, his technical expertise, I think he could help mold that team into a team that can challenge for points and podiums once again. And they would still have the young Valtteri Bottas to develop and learn from Massa and that sort of thing.
Yeah. So if we look at the roster for next year, of course, at Red Bull we've got Vettel and Ricciardo. Then at Ferrari, if we choose to think that Alonso and Kimi will be there, of course, well, let's lock them in. And I think still McLaren is gonna stick with Button and Perez for another year.
Yeah, I think and hope, as many of the listeners might already know, I am a Perez fan. But I think McLaren has been withholding his contract just because they can. Which I know almost sounds kind of mean, but I think they're kind of like hanging it in front of him like a carrot on a stick for a horse. They're like, come on, man, if you want it, go get it. Show us that you how much you want it. Of course, Perez does bring sponsorship. He doesn't bring cash monies, but he does bring sponsorship with him, which is certainly nice. But a team like McLaren doesn't really need that sponsorship as much as other teams. Certainly, they might need it a little bit more because their car is so terrible this year that they're probably going to end up getting 5th or 6th in the championship. So they're certainly going to be losing out on some of that championship money. So that certainly could help Perez. But the main thing for Perez to stay at McLaren, in my opinion, is for Nico Hulkenberg to get signed to Lotus. I think Nico
Yeah.
Hulkenberg is by far Perez's biggest threat. They're very similar age, very similar experience, but if you ask me, in 2013, it's been all about Hulkenberg. If you look at Hulkenberg versus Perez.
Yeah, I think so too. And of course, McLaren is changing their title sponsor. Vodafone is quitting them at the end of this year, so they're looking around. And I heard somewhere, I think in Ted's notebook, I think he said that they're probably not going with a Mexican title sponsor, of course, Telmex, for example.
They're not going with Telmex.
Yeah, we'll of course we'll have to see, but that's what I heard.
When did Ted say that? Was that like for the Japanese race
Yeah,
notebook?
yeah.
Oh, I haven't seen that yet. Okay, yeah. It was 3 o'clock in the morning when the race finished for me, so I didn't really watch any of the post-race coverage. But yeah, I honestly, something that I was considering. Why would a British team like McLaren with so much history really want a Mexican sponsor? It seems a little silly. Not that there's anything wrong with Mexico or anything like that. Just it seems like they would be advertising a Mexican product to British people. Certainly the Mexican Grand Prix is it still provisional on the 2014 calendar, or have they confirmed it?
I think it's still provisional. They have to improve the track, I think so.
Okay, but yeah,
Because it's so bumpy at the moment.
right. So yeah, but if they did the Mexican Grand Prix, and they had Sergio Perez in a McLaren with the Mexican sponsorship, certainly that could benefit McLaren financially in a huge way, just by having a Mexican driver, Mexican race on the calendar, Mexican sponsor. Could potentially, but like I said, I can totally understand why they would not want a Mexican sponsor on the car, just because it's not really going to appeal to the British people.
Yeah, and of course it's all about the brand. If you think about, and you must think forward more than just 1 year, because of course they're probably going with Honda engines at 2015.
Yep.
So can you really think about the McLaren being Telemex McLaren Honda? I mean, that just sounds ridiculous.
That really does. Actually, that's a really good point. Yeah, that would be pretty interesting. Japanese, Mexican, British team. Yeah, Button is kind of like a unofficial Japanese person at this point, so I guess that would kind of make sense with their driver lineup. But yeah, that does seem a little silly. But I mean, have they said what companies they are looking at potentially for sponsorship?
I don't know. I think Coca-Cola is one of those, but I think of course they're already sponsoring Lotus via Burn.
Oh, okay. I didn't know what Burn was, to be honest. Is it an energy drink?
Yeah, it's a energy drink made by Coca-Cola.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Wow. I'm not sure we have that in America, or at least I haven't seen it. Anyway,
Yeah.
so I'm looking at the 2014 driver list, and Williams hasn't confirmed either of their drivers. Toro Rosso hasn't confirmed either of their drivers, and Force India hasn't either. But Force India traditionally does tend to announce their drivers very late, right? I mean, I think they announced their second driver. Sutil wasn't announced until just before preseason testing, right?
Yeah. Let's just wrap up this segment. Let's just go through the teams. Lotus, we think Grosjean and Hulkenberg.
I hope so.
Yeah. Mercedes locked in with Rosberg and Hamilton. Then Sauber, you think Sirotkin and Gutierrez?
Yes, yeah. I think there's a better chance of that now. Previously, if you had asked me that question 24 hours ago, I would have said no. But yeah, I'm gonna go with I think Sorokin and Gutierrez is a big possibility.
Yeah. So what about Force India? They have James Calado as their test driver. What do you think about him?
I like James Colato. He's had a few mistakes in GP2. I do watch GP2 whenever it's available. I've seen most of the 2013 races, and I do think James Colato is very good. I would say he's definitely one of the top tier GP2 drivers. I want to say probably in the top five. I'd like to see Colato get a seat. I don't think. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Force India had an all new driver lineup for 2014. I wouldn't be surprised at all.
Yeah, I'm not sure about Sudil. I think, of course, he brings sponsorship up as well, and I think they like him. So I think Paul di Resta's out. I don't see Calado next season on Force India though.
Yeah, I'm not sure he's ready just yet, but I'd say he has a chance. I
Yeah,
think I
yeah,
think he has a small chance of getting into Force India next year, but um, there might even be, for instance, Sam Bird from GP2. He
yeah,
has the potential to win the GP2 championship in Bahrain coming up soon. I think he is a more complete driver than James Colato. Of course, Sam Bird though is a test driver or reserve driver for the Mercedes F1 team. So I'm not sure if he's even really an option.
yeah. Of course, Force India is they're powered by Mercedes engines, so I think there's a link between those
This
teams.
is very true. This is very true. So I and they're a British team, kind of. They're based in England. Certainly, their money comes from
Yeah,
from India. But I think Sam Bird would be a better choice than James Colato. But I think either one, honestly, is a pretty good choice. I think both of them would do pretty well in F1.
yeah. So let's move on to Williams. We think Bottas is gonna get the seat for next year. As uh, I mean, they like him. He's been performing pretty good for his rookie season, and I'm not saying this all as a Finn or a Bottas fan, but I mean, for his rookie season and thinking about how bad the car really
Yep.
is at the moment.
Third slowest car on the grid, I would say.
Yeah, yeah, I'm afraid so.
I mean, they're
So
barely a second ahead of the Caterhams.
yeah, and of course we're hearing that Maldonado is looking around. He's not very comfortable at Williams at the moment.
I can't really see any team besides Williams signing Maldonado.
Yeah, yeah, me neither. So we'll have to wait and see. Of course, there's the possibility of Massa going to Williams, but yeah, I don't personally I don't see it. But of course, if Robert Smedley goes there, he might bring Massa with him, or vice versa.
Now, I am just kind of noticing this now. Williams is going to be running Mercedes engines in 2014.
Yeah,
Interesting. So there's actually only going to be three Renault powered, or actually no, yeah. So there's still going to be three because Toro Rosso is going from Ferrari to Renault power plants.
yeah, yeah.
Interesting.
So so of course, if Williams moves to Mercedes engines, then that might be a option for Sam Bird as well.
Exactly what I was thinking. Yeah, yeah. I think Sam Bird alongside Valtteri Bottas would be a good pairing as well.
Yeah. So what do you think about Toro Rosso? I think Verne is gonna stay, and maybe Da Costa.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's pretty much what everyone's saying. Felix da Costa and Jean-Eric Verne. I would be pretty bummed if I can see here on Wiki that Jev hasn't been signed yet, but I would like to see Jean-Eric Verne stay in Formula One. I do think he's a bit. I've always kind of preferred him out of the pairing of Ricciardo and Jev. I've always kind of liked John Verne a little bit more than Daniel Ricciardo. They seem very
Yeah.
very equal drivers actually. They seem to each have their strengths and weaknesses just like any driver would. But at the end of the day, they always seem pretty similarly paced. It doesn't seem like one is just completely dominated the other. I know Jev's had some bad luck in 2013, but I'd really like to see him stick around for 2014.
Yeah, I mean, he's performed better than Ricciardo in races. I think, in average, I think a little bit better. But Ricciardo's had the upper hand in qualifying, so yeah. Well, we'll just have to wait and see what happens there. But I think Felix da Costa is pretty close to signing the deal.
Yeah, I think so too. I haven't even heard talk of anyone else's name really being mentioned for that seat.
Yeah. So what about Caterham? What do you think about Pick?
That's an interesting one. I haven't thought about 2014 Caterham at all, actually. I do see that Charles Peake has been confirmed. I think that's good for continuity. But at the same time, I really think Guido Vandergaard has really been shining recently. Kind of similar to Esteban Gutierrez. He had a really rough start to the year. He was just getting just stormed past by the other by Marussia and by the other Caterham of Peak. It really seemed like he was just getting his butt handed to him. But he's really improved recently. So that's a tough call. I mean, how do you feel about them?
Yeah, I think Guido Vandergaard's he's been actually performing quite well. Of course, in Spa he had that little luck with the qualifying with the
Yep, getting into Q2.
dry tires. Yeah,
Yep,
yeah.
that was impressive.
So, of course, Finnish media is always talking about Heikki Kovalainen going back. Can you see that
Yeah,
happening?
yeah. I've heard, of course, that oh gosh, Tony Fernandez. Got it. I almost forgot
Yeah.
his name. Tony Fernandez is apparently a very big fan of Heikki Kovalainen. They're good friends. Certainly, he's even been an asset to the team in 2013 as a reserve driver, driving on Fridays to help improve the car and whatnot. So I could see him making a return if Caterham can hang on to their 10th place. If Marussia end up taking 10th place in the constructors, I think that's game over for Heikki because Caterham just needs the money too much.
Yeah, yeah. I think so too. So, what about Marussia? Jules Bianchi is signed already.
Yep, and that's good. That makes a lot of sense. I'm not surprised at all by that one. I expect that they tried to sign him as quickly as possible before someone else did. I was kind of expecting Jules Bianchi to go to Toro Rosso, what with their affiliation with Ferrari, but apparently now that they're going
Yeah.
to Renault engines for 2014, that kind of closes him off from going there. Um,
Yeah, of course, Marussia is switching to Ferrari power packs
yes,
next year.
I'm really looking forward to that personally. I'm really hoping that Marussia can maybe even start bringing the fight to, Williams, Force India, stuff like that. Maybe just even if they can just close that gap down just a little bit further, if they can get within 3 or 4 tenths of within 3 or 4 tenths of the mid pack on over a 1 lap pace, then they potentially could be challenging for points even, as long as they get their strategies right and that sort of thing. Right now the Caterham and the Marussia, they're just too slow. Even if you make an amazing choice strategy wise, you're still not going to get into the points because it's just too far back. But with them having the Ferrari power plants for next year, I'm hoping that they can at least be challenging the midfield a little bit more. Maybe they still won't get any points. That's understandable. It's tough being in the top 10 for this sport. But I would like to see them racing side by side with Williams and Force India and stuff like that. It gets kind of depressing when, they just get lapped all the time and they're just, racing each other. Marussia and Caterham, they're just basically racing each other at this point. I'd like to see them mix it up a bit more.
Yeah, of course it's very much about budget and and yeah, well, about money really. But of course, so what about the other seat, Jules Bianchi?
Um,
And I mean, there's so many people who could take that seat.
yeah, there really
I mean,
is.
there's people in GP3, GP2, Renault 3.5. There's so many people.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd say Caterham and Marussia are the teams that I'm the most questionable about. With the bigger teams, it's easy to speculate who's going to go there because they have certain standards. That sounds
Yeah.
sounds kind of mean. It sounds like I'm saying Marussia has no standards, but they certainly have lower standards than Lotus or even a Sauber and so on and so forth. So it's tougher to predict who's going to get a seat for a lower end team because it is more about money and stuff like that. So we could see somebody, who we really didn't expect to get a seat. We could see them alongside Jules Bianchi. I do think Chilton has improved. I got to give credit to the rookies this year. No one has gotten worse or failed to improve. Chilton has definitely improved. Bianchi, actually, he's kind of always been good, but I think he's improving. Chilton has definitely improved, although it would have been pretty impressive to get worse than he was at the start of the season. So he's improved. Gutierrez certainly has improved. So hats off to the rookies of 2013. They really seem to have improved over the months.
Yeah, and of course, I think you mentioned standards. Of course, I think Marussia is they're kind of keeping tabs on their standards, but just by signing Jules Bianchi because they know that he's a very reliable asset.
Definitely, yeah, smart choice by them. They need to hang
Yeah,
on to him for as long as they can. I think Jules Bianchi in a Ferrari-powered Marussia next year could be doing exactly what I hope and challenging the midfielders.
yeah, yeah. I think that's enough for this box cast.
Yep.
We're running already for 45 minutes.
We were going to talk about Rush. We could save that for the next one though.
Yeah.
All right, everyone. Well, thanks for listening to the very first ever Boxcast. Join us next time where we'll be talking about the Rush movie and some other stuff as well. Thanks for listening, guys.
Yeah. Thanks for watching.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.